Hello, my name is Garvin, and I read things and chatter about them on the internet for your entertainment. Today, we're continuing our look at Lemuria in popular culture, and we're going to look at a fantasy work actually written in the 21st century. Now, I had trouble finding anything from the Anglosphere, that is, the countries that speak English natively. So if you know of a fantasy or science fiction book written in the last 25 years featuring Lemuria from an English-speaking author, please let me know in the comments. However, when I stepped outside of the Anglosphere, I was able to find a couple of works. So today we're looking at the Lost Tales of Lemuria, the Mountains of Moran, and I'm just going to apologize for my pronunciation in advance, by Shisha S. Algira. Let's turn to that, shall we? Sisa Algira is a Dutch police officer who also writes and edits comic books. He was born in the Netherlands in 1967, and in the 1990s, he was asked by a Dutch comic book company to visit the United States to help bring back American writers for a signing tour. As I understand it, that's where he first made his connection to the industry. However, his big break happened in 2009 when the editor of Epo, a popular Dutch magazine, asked him to help with some projects, and he met Belgian artist Patrick van Oppen, and together they created Dis Vries, a comic about a reporter who is torn between his love of getting the scoop and the fact that he's putting his family in danger. After that, he created the three-part Cell series, which tells the story of a young Moroccan boy who is fleeing the police. Meanwhile, terrorists attack the Amsterdam airport, and a racist politician uses the fears of the Dutch people for his own ends. So it was very much a direct social commentary on things that were going on and are still ongoing in the Netherlands and in other nations in the West. He would start the Lemurian series, which is what we're going to talk about today, with an Indonesian artist named Apriyadi Kusbintoro. And on the off chance that any of these gentlemen see this video, I am really sorry for the pronunciation. I tried to find a pronunciation guide, but there didn't seem to be one. Now, Mr. Algira is still making comics, and is in fact making a comic about two rookie police officers called 24/7 that is published in the National Police magazine of the Netherlands. Also, his works can be found not just in the Netherlands, but also in Belgium, Spain, Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. This comic was translated into English. I found it on Amazon, and I'll have a link to that below in the description. With all that out of the way, let's get to the comic itself. The Lost Tales of Lemuria, the Mountains of Moran, is sort of a continuation of another series called Lemuria Citadel. Now, from what I can find, that series is about the discovery of ancient Lemurian ruins in the modern day, and the world's reaction to that. Meanwhile, the Mountains of Moran take place completely in the dim and ancient past of the Lemurian continent. And it follows the story of two people. There's Russ, who was adopted as an infant by a group of fishermen, and Leanne, a former slave who is trying to rescue the son of the family who freed her from slavery. This graphic novel is focused on the story of their meeting and deciding to work together, and the story kind of goes like this. Russ is working with his adopted uncles on a high-tech fishing ship that can fly. And this capability is important to them because the waters they fish in are filled with horrible creatures like megalodons and krakens who are more than happy to just snarf down an entire ship. So being able to just get out of reach is a great survival tactic. Unfortunately, despite that capability, it looks like the fishing fleet they were part of was destroyed before they could meet up with it. And as Russ and his uncles take to the skies to try and find out more information, they are attacked by an alien ship that takes Russ prisoner and in the process destroys his family. It's on this ship that he meets the blue-skinned Carp, who is an alien who has also been taken prisoner by these other aliens. And Carp informs Russell that what's going on is that these aliens go from planet to planet, kidnapping people and selling them on the galactic slave market. Russ is not okay with that, so he and Carp work together to stage a breakout of all the sapiens who have been kidnapped. Unfortunately, the alien slaving scum in charge of this ship decides they'd rather blow their ship up rather than accept being overthrown. Carp and Russ do manage to escape, getting to the escape pod and ejecting from the ship, but the escape pod's engine apparently doesn't work, and as their pod falls to the incredibly dangerous sea below them, they realize they are just having the worst day. Not that Leanne is having a better time, mind you. When we meet her, she's being dragged into a city as part of a chained group of slaves. But she doesn't stay enslaved for long. When one of the guards loses control of their guard animal, it reminds me of a giant naked mole rat, only with fangs. She saves a nearby child from this creature, and that child's family is so grateful that they buy her freedom. Now, this doesn't go off without a hitch, because one of the slavers decides he's going to whip Leanne for saving a kid. And this family, that seems somewhat important because they have guards. Well, one of their guards chops off this guy's hands, and he deserves worse. The slaver, I mean. He enslaves people for a living. I'm not upset that he loses a hand in the process. Well, the family take Leanne to their home, and while they're discussing, what she should do with her newfound freedom, the slaver in question decides he's going to break into the family home, kill the family, and re-enslave Leanne as revenge for his hand. This promptly gets him killed, and honestly, he deserved worse. The family is going on a trip outside of the city, and Leanne elects to come with them because that gets her closer to the last place she saw her family, the mountains of Moran. And now you see where the title comes from. Sadly, the slaver had friends who were just as puffed up as he was. They're upset that one of their own suffered the rightful consequences of his behavior, so they decide they're going to ambush the caravan, kill the adults, and enslave everyone else. Because how dare people defend themselves in their own homes, right? The audacity! Well, unfortunately, the ambush goes, honestly, pretty well for the slavers. But Leanne survives and escapes with the mother of the family. However, the boy was taken and pretty much everyone else was murdered. To make things worse, Leanne and the mother flee into a series of tunnels and run into a weird mist that seems to turn people into stone. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. But the end result is Leanne is now alone in the wilderness with nothing but her wits, a sword, and a determination to kill slavers and free a kidnapped boy. So I don't know a lot about Leanne at this point, but I really like where her head's at, and I really approve of her life goals. Well, there is some good news. Leanne is not alone for long, because as she's looking out on this barren wilderness, she sees a burning chunk of metal and fire hit the water nearby her. And of course, she goes to see if there are any survivors she can help, or maybe she's looking for something to salvage. She never really says. But she runs into a pair of survivors and she instantly helps them. And those survivors happen to be Russ and Carp. What were the odds, right? Well, they appreciate her help, and when she mentions that she needs help liberating a boy from slaver scum, their response is, well, we got nothing better to do, and it's a Saturday night, so they're all in. While I don't know a lot about Carp and Russ, I just want to note I also approve of where their heads are at and of their current life goals. I can only hope all three of these people fulfill those goals, free a lot of people, and kill more slavers. Sadly, I have no idea what happens next. I know a sequel was made, but it was not translated into English, and I unfortunately do not read Dutch, German, or Spanish. It's a character flaw, I know. But it's one I'll have to live with right now. I will stay on the lookout and see if I can find a translation at some point, because this was fairly entertaining, and it was wild as a story. In one graphic novel, I got giant monsters, sword fights, and an alien abduction. That's wild. So I'm kind of hoping to see what happens next. Let me talk about the Lemuria in this story. The writer and the artist does a great job of making this feel like a strange and alien place to modern humans. There are prehistoric creatures like the megalodon I mentioned earlier, and just completely alien seeming life forms. And the tech level is just schizophrenic. We have people fighting with swords, and then we have big multi-man flying ships, although those flying ships don't seem to be very common. Now, I don't really have a good feel for this Lemuria, given the shortness of the graphic novel, but what I got left me wanting to find out more, so mission accomplished there. On that note, however, I think this is a good place to end this week's video. I hope you found this video informative, or at least entertaining. If you did, please leave a like, a comment, or consider subscribing. All of these help me in my eternal struggle against the dread Lord algorithm. Terror be on his name. If you'd like a voice on the subject of upcoming videos, consider joining my Everwise patrons for $1 a month. There's a link in the description below. Speaking of patrons, I'd like to give a special thanks to Big Steve, my biggest supporter. As always, man, your support means a lot. Next week, we are sticking to Europe because I discovered there's a link between Lemuria and one of the longest running science fiction series in the world. Next week, we're looking at Perry Rodan #1, Enterprise Stardust. I hope you join me, but until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and of course, keep reading.